Hi, this is Shilpa here. So this time I'm going to present a case of concussion. I had seen this case. This is a 19-year-old girl, and I had seen this case, I think about 10 years back. So she came with, she had been through a severe car accident, which happened a week back at that point in time, and she came with severe concussion and L4, L5 compression. So she had been in the hospital for a few days and came back home, and she's had the severe vertigo since about a week at that point in time, exactly since the day of the accident. So her left eye was quite red. She's had really painful back and neck because all that part was injured. The headaches, lots of them all over in the morning and the evening, and she had this really strong vertigo, aggravated any time she looked up or down or just about any movement, especially in the morning when she was having a shower. But it was really unbearable for her. The only position she could be was lying down or sitting down. So she said, I cannot travel, I cannot walk on the roads. Suddenly everything goes round and round in circles, and she has to sit down or she falls suddenly. So my mind goes completely blank. She says, whenever I'm giddy, I cannot think. I want to sleep. Since a week she's been sleeping a lot, and there is this tightness in her chest. She cannot breathe at that point. Suddenly she sweats, and there is this painful heaviness at the back of her head. So that was all I got. And what was quite important was, she was what it was much more than what she said there. There was this constant blank look she had, as if she was still in a daze, as if she'd just not got over it, right? It's hard to explain, but that like sort of staring, but just beyond me, she was looking into some blankness. So I asked her, how did the accident happen? And she said, I knew it just before it was going to happen. So there was quite a strong intuition there. And then she said, suddenly it happened. I got so giddy. I felt either I will live or I will die. And I slept through it. She said, I went totally blank. I was completely unconscious. The only thing she felt was, her soul was going up. I was lifted high up as the car tumbled down. And she said, I found my eyes were bleeding, my hand, the flesh in my hand had come out. It was so painful. I could not get up on my feet, and I felt, forget it, I should just sleep. So she was unconscious when they found her. And then she remembers one moment when she, was taken to the hospital, and in the x-ray room, her aunt touched her and she fainted. The ceiling turned round and round, and I slept. I was unconscious. So this is similar to when I'm giddy. I go completely blank and suddenly I fall. Now, that was all I got, and the mom gave me something about her past. She said she's always been involved in lots of accidents since she was little. As a child, she fell off the lounge, and she had 8 stitches on her head, and she saw a lot of blood coming down, and she suddenly fainted. And she doesn't remember anything about the incident until much later. And she said, I don't know, I just went into a deep sleep. And since then, she's been very weak in her studies. She says, I can't retain things, I can't take in things, my memory is very poor, and nothing goes in my mind. And then she's had a suicidal attempt when she consumed poison after a breakup with her boyfriend in year 10. And she said, I was unconscious for 5 days, and she thinks she was raped. So that was all I'd received in the past traumas, and that was my case. So in these cases, when if you look at her, there was a central idea coming up, but they were all common symptoms. All what I could find was this really strong history of like accident and trauma, and then this real blankness, this real unconscious faintness, this dazedness out of that whole situation. When I find such scenarios, I generally use the Borges approach. Now, the Borges approach is beautiful for all stage 2 cases whenever you have these components coming together. So you have a causative modality, and then you see a general sensitivity. It could be a common sensitivity, but it's common for the mind and the body. So you have a mental state and some physical sensations, but there is a link which connects them, which comes through the subjective symptoms, which come through the objective symptoms. So in this case, what the objective information I got was much more important than the subjective one, because I could see that complete blankness, both mind and body, and obviously the organ and the system involved here as well. So this was my totality. I had elements from causative factor as this real accident and injury, and the suddenness of the whole thing. It wasn't just the shock which was sudden, but the vertigo which was sudden, the unconsciousness which was sudden. So there was a lot of acuteness in some form in this case, and then obviously the unconsciousness, the blankness of mind, the weak memory, the dullness, which was just that daze, as if she was still in a daze. She had still not got over it. And this vertigo, which is severe vertigo, and the cerebrospinal axis which was involved. So together, even though individual symptoms are very common, like really stage 2, together it comes through a very strong sensitivity going through a mind and body there, right? So I went and repertorized this, and this is what I got. So I used my software, the HomeoQuest, and I used the Quest where there was I did a repertorization which was both from the Mater Medica and the Repertories, and I used these symptoms: concussion, sudden shock, unconsciousness, blankness of mind, weak memory, vertigo, and cerebrospinal axis. So you find quite a few remedies: arnica, cicuta, hypericum. Then sudden shock, again cicuta strongly comes up here. Unconsciousness, blankness of mind, not a lot of symptoms there. You find blank mind in Borges' repertory, and you find it in Corallium rubrum. You find it in Cocculus, the mind seems blank. You find in Kent, he's written it in under cicuta, but he's talking about nux moschata as a remedy that has complete blankness. And then Sencris. And then you have weakness of memory and vertigo. So anyway, the strong remedy coming on here was cicuta. So I thought that was an interesting remedy. I remembered a case of cicuta. I'd heard about one of my teachers talking about a child who had heard something really horrible and traumatic, and so there was a psychological trauma, and she had regressed into a childlike form. So that was for me a very strong symptom of cicuta, where there is a regression into childishness. And so when you read cicuta, you find the same thing. I looked into Borges, and I found violent convulsive phenomena and then prolonged unconsciousness, which was exactly what was similar, was the violence and the unconsciousness after that. And then you see brain as the region and injuries to brain. So cicuta looked very promising there. And then I read a bit more twitchings and shocks and epilepsy and then childishness, which was what I had seen in that case. Now, I wasn't sure about any childishness in this particular girl. There wasn't any regression of that form. So if you look at Bonninghausen, even he mentions childish insanity, does all sorts of foolish things and confuses the past with the present, and timidity and suspicion and mistrust with anthropophobia, which was not what my case was about. So, but I liked the whole idea of cicuta as a general remedy. So I looked into the family of cicuta, because another remedy comes up here, which is conium, belongs to the same family, which is the umbellifera family. So I thought I should look into these remedies, because if 2 of them are coming up in the first 10, there's something strong here. So what I did was I went in and used the Umbellifera family filter into my quest analysis, and I tried to find out. So that's the carrot and the parsley family, and I wanted to look at the strong Umbellifera family remedies coming up there. So we have obviously Cicuta, Conium, which are the strongest. You find Ethusa and Oniana. I didn't know what was that, right? Ethaphytidas. Anyway, I looked into the quest again, and I looked into what are the top remedies. So again, Cicuta, unconscious, Oniana. So I tried to look into what this remedy was about. Onionanthe crocata. So when I was looking at unconsciousness with convulsions, with pregnancy convulsions, unconsciousness, mental insensibility, automatic conduct, I found unconsciousness was quite marked in Oniantha than all other remedies in the Umbellifera family. There's complete and sudden unconsciousness, and I thought I have to look into this remedy because my case, the fainting and the unconsciousness and the blankness was very strong there. So I looked into the remedy. Let's see what Bojo writes. Bojo talks about the cerebrospinal axis, and then he looks into there is mania, swelling and twitching of face, and epilepsy and status epilepticus. So again, it's a remedy for epilepsy. It's related to Cicuta and belladonna. I look into Boriki, and Boriki talks about pains all over the head and dizziness, which is interesting, sudden and complete unconsciousness. And then I looked into herrings, and I found in the sensorium we have this epileptic conditions, vertigo with falling, with nausea, vomiting, syncope, and convulsions. And I was looking into Ellen, and there's something which I found in Ellen which really surprised me. So she has this much confusion in the intellect and vacant expression, and consciousness had quite written, but all is a blank since he ate the root. She thought that she was transported to a very great elevation, and I thought that was important. It seemed to her as if she were flying. So she had this exact experience as soon as she was giddy and falling down, that her soul went up and she was raised to a great height. And I thought that was a very important part here. They were all absolutely unconscious, loss of insensibility, complete insensibility, lies in a state of stupor, sleeping much in the evening, and stupor for several days, lay for some hours in a stage of stupor and coma. And I found that was what my case was about, and I decided to give her this remedy. It was a new remedy, never heard about it, didn't even know what it was. I did a bit of research, so I'll just show you what I found in other places. So I looked into Hahnemann's writings in Apotheker Lexicon. I found it's a plant. It is said that the whole plant is poisonous and causes vertigo, stupefaction, loss of force, convulsions, delirium, stiffness, insensibility, and so on. So that was quite interesting that he mentioned vertigo there. In 1729, again a publication where those who ate too much of it were taken with dark vertigos, going from one place to another, swaying, frightened, turning in a circle. And I thought that was enough, for me to give me enough confidence to actually go and use this in his case for the very first time. So I gave her a triple split dose, and I asked the mom to call me the next day if she did not respond to it, right? So the mom didn't call me, and we booked in a follow-up a month later, right? So she got 3 powders, and that was it. They didn't come to collect, I said come and collect some more powders if you need to, but there was no need to. So she comes a month later, and she walks in a completely different girl. She is, smiling. For the first time, there was complete blankness last time. She responded straight away. She said, feeling really good. I feel very fresh, not sick. I had a good sleep. The mental state improved straight away. That awareness came back. So she was again, back into life. There was no giddiness, no head pains. The uneasiness disappeared completely. So that was it for me. She never came back after that. That was just an acute case for me, and also for her. But I thought this remedy and this particular family has been I studied this family after that, and I've used it quite often in both psychological trauma and physical trauma. It's not a very well used family. Conium is the only remedy, and cicuta in some instances, but I have found Oniente as a great remedy for absence seizures, where you are not aware of what's happening and you suddenly go into a convulsive state. So that for me, it's a key for that remedy. And also, I think this family is a great family for concussions. Just the sudden unexpected shock. That's what Sankran writes about in the Umbellifera family as well. And then you have the state of daze, and you can differentiate that from Nux moschata, and also the opium family in some instances. And opium for me is also does have the sleepy state, but there is a very different painlessness, which wasn't in this case. This case was all about the unconsciousness and the blankness. That for me was the key. Blankness you can't repertorize as such. Boger gives about mind blankness, but otherwise it is something which the Matra Medica brings up really beautifully. So I hope that helps. I'd love to hear about your experiences with other cases of trauma, and what remedies have worked for you very well, and were there any new remedies that came up for you and that became your favorite later on. So love to hear your stories. Don't forget to write about them, share it with us. We'll all love to learn from you, and hope you've learned a lot about this particular remedy and the family as well. So the carrot and celery family for me. And I'll see you next time with some other interesting things and inputs in homeopathy. Take care and have a lovely time. Bye bye.